Hello everybody, my name is Mariako and welcome to Feed the Beast Revelation. It's been quite a few months since I first said I wanted a modded Minecraft series, and here we finally are. So, if you're not familiar with Revelation, this is the latest mod pack from the Feed the Beast team, the largest one they've ever released in fact, which is quite an impressive statement coming from those guys, and it is their standard kitchen sink style pack for Minecraft 1.12. So that basically means that we're thrown out into the world with no direction and no restrictions. We just are kind of in a vanilla Minecraft scenario where we have unlimited freedom, we can do whatever we want, it's just us, Minecraft, and a million new items to play with. To give you an idea of just how many items there really are, if we go ahead and open up our inventory, you'll see this thing on the right hand side of our screen. This is called JEI, and this basically shows us every block and item in the game that we can make or use, for the most part. So, you should recognize the stuff we see here. This is everything from vanilla Minecraft. Every block, every potion, every enchantment, everything. Even stuff that we can't actually get access to, like command blocks and barrier blocks. Literally every item. And that's pretty cool, but you'll notice that all of the vanilla stuff took up about 5.5 pages, or we'll say 6. The other 98 pages of this is all modded content. Hundreds and hundreds of new blocks, new armors and weapons and tools and all kinds of crazy items and machines that do all kinds of amazing things. Just tons and tons of stuff. Tons of new foods. We can make cooked tofurkey. I don't even know. Don't even know. But it's really amazing, and I cannot wait to dive into all of this stuff. But before I do, I need to go on a little bit of a journey. You see, I chose this seed that we're on very specifically because there is a specific spot that I want to build on. Unfortunately, that spot is about 1,500 blocks away. So, I'm not mean enough to drag you guys along for a 1,500 block nature walk, but I do want to talk to you very briefly as we head on our way about what this series is going to be like, what you can expect from it, and just kind of what's going to be going on with it. So, we're going to take care of that, and then we're going to get to our location, and then we'll dive right into all of the new modded goodness. The reason I wanted to talk with you guys as we take our little trip here is that this series comes with a bit of a disclaimer. So, I've played Minecraft for many years now, but somehow, throughout all of that time, I've never actually played modded Minecraft before. The only mod I've ever actually used was Pixelmon, back when it was first getting popular, and as fun as that was, let's be honest, it doesn't really count. So basically, I'm a lost little vanilla boy in a big, scary modded world. Now, I don't really think that this is going to be a problem. I don't usually fumble around on camera, and I tend to educate myself before I show you guys stuff anyway, but there will inevitably be times where I do something in a really dumb way because I don't know any better. So, if you're willing to bear with me, and maybe point me in the right direction when I need it, that would be awesome. If you're the type to get easily annoyed by someone not knowing every single thing about a game, well, this might not be the series for you. On that note, I do actually intend to go out of my way to do things in as many different ways throughout the series as possible. Because this is my own kind of personal introduction to modded Minecraft, I want to utilize all of the mods and try out all of the stuff. I don't intend to just go for the most OP armor or the easiest power generation. I want to try out all of the options as much as I can. So we're probably going to go through a lot of rather weird builds and a lot of inefficient stuff just for the sake of doing it. So if that all sounds like a good time to you, well, let's get started. So this is our new home. This is a Badlands biome, one of several added in by the Traverse mod, which is kind of a toned down version of Biomes O'Plenty if you're more familiar with that one. And I think this place feels really, really cool. So, first thing you'll notice, the sky is this kind of crazy peachy orange color, which is a little interesting. It stays like that all day long, and I think it gives this place kind of a cool feel. And more importantly, the terrain itself feels very, very interesting. We have various flat areas where we can build on. We've got some small hills and some kind of medium hills that have steepish sides to them. And then, of course, some big, like, cliff faces, and there's even a couple really tall mountains over on that side. So this is a really, really cool place. All of that different variance in the heights and the shape of the terrain means that we can do some cool stuff with it as we're building. We can have some stuff up mountains and some built into it, and hopefully we'll take advantage of that as we go. So that is all very exciting. What's not exciting is my current situation. So I ran all the way over here, nonstop, and thankfully I found a lot of berry bushes along the way, otherwise I totally would have starved to death. But those berries are gone. I've eaten them all, and, well, I'm just not in a very good spot right now. So I need to solve that problem. I need to get myself some food, and I need to start getting some resources. So being the naive little vanilla boy that I am, I'm going to tackle this in a very vanilla way, at least here at the beginning. I'm going to go and set up a couple farms, somewhere, somehow, some probably wheat farms, and maybe try and wrangle together some animals, so I get myself some food. And then I'm going to go on a bit of a caving trip to try and gather some resources. That way we can dive into some modded stuff and hopefully make some good progress here in episode 1. So, I'm going to go get to that. Alright, so we are reasonably well established now, at least from a day 1 vanilla style perspective. We've got full iron armor and iron tools, and we've got a little wheat farm going with these little worm guys that are making the crops grow faster, which is awesome. We've got this cow pen and this little chicken pit. Very vanilla stuff, but it does the trick. Now, for some reason, I'm still depending on berries for my food source, and I guess it's just because they grow so fast that it works out, but it is quite tedious. Though now that I have all of these Natura berries, I can actually mix them together, the blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries, and get a berry medley, and that actually has a higher saturation than steak does. So that's pretty cool, actually. And I suppose now that I have enough of these bushes grown, I can probably switch to that as my main food source, though I'm probably going to start pooping rainbows at this point. Anyway, now that we have a decent source of food and a lot of resources, and I'm no longer on the cusp of death at all times, I think it's about time that we get into some proper modded Minecraft. Now, as is the case with most people when they first get into modded Minecraft, we're going to start off with Tinker's Construct. Hello, seeds. Now, Tinker's Construct is relatively easy to get into. All you need to do is craft a handful of different tables and a couple blank patterns. Let's go ahead and do that now. We do need quite a few of those, actually, so let's do that. I think we're going to need like that, maybe. Parts builder, a pattern chest, and we also need a tool station. I'm just going to need another one of these. And we're going to go ahead and upgrade the tool station. We don't actually need to right now, but eventually we're going to want a tool forge anyway, so why not do it now? We're going to pop these down, and with this, we have a fully functioning Tinker's Construct setup, at least for very basic tools. So to give you an example of how this all works, if we go ahead and put this blank pattern in here and click on the pickaxe, we get a pickaxe head pattern. We can put that into our pattern chest. Our parts builder automatically looks into the pattern chest, so we can just click that pattern from in here. We add 2 cobblestone in, and we'll get a stone pickaxe head based on this pattern. Then we take this over to the tool forge, we pop it in here, and we are 1/3 of the way done with a new pickaxe. So if we were to repeat that process 2 more times with whatever material we'd like for a binding and a tool rod, then we would get a new pickaxe out of it. So that's really cool, but unfortunately, I've already gone past this stage being useful. I kind of out-vanilla'd early game Tinker's Construct. So now that I already have iron tools, a stone pickaxe head, it's not really that good for me. So what we really need to do is look into the Tinker's Construct manual and find something a little bit better. So if we click on tool materials, these are all of the materials that we can use for our various weapons and tools that we want to make. And a lot of these are really cool and have really interesting properties. Some of them are distinctly better than others, obviously. Cobalt in particular is really good, and we'll probably be upgrading to that within an episode or 2 anyway. It's not particularly hard to reach it, but I don't really want to rush through the mods anyway. So I think for today what we're going to do is stick to a relatively basic kind of middle tier object, which is bronze. So bronze will work relatively well for us. It should be decent, at least until we get up to cobalt. Again, we'll do that pretty quickly. The issue is that we can't actually craft a bronze pickaxe with what we have here. The part builder just won't do it. We could put some bronze ingots in here, but we wouldn't get anything out. So what we actually need to do in order to get a bronze pickaxe is build a Tinker's Construct smeltery. Once we build the smeltery, we can put our bronze in it. It'll smelt it down into kind of a liquid form, and then we can eject that liquid molten bronze into a cast, and that will become the parts for our pickaxe. So that's pretty awesome. Now, the Tinker's Construct smeltery itself is relatively simple to make. All we need to do is collect some clay, sand, and gravel. We combine that together to make grout. We cook the grout to get seared bricks, and then those seared bricks are used to craft all the various components of the smeltery. Now, the smeltery can be built in many different ways. There's no one way to do it. It comes in many different sizes and many different arrangements of the blocks, but I'm doing this in a pretty standard way. So now that we have our Tinker's Construct smeltery up and running, we can go ahead and start smelting together some bronze. And in order to do that, we're going to put in 3 copper and 1 tin ore. Those are going to start melting up, and they will quickly pop up inside of our smeltery. You can see the molten tin down there, and you can even see this stuff physically if you go above, which is pretty cool, though you definitely don't want to fall in there. It's just a bad time. So once our copper ore has finished smelting, that's going to pop down on top of our tin, and then because there's nothing in between them, they're going to start mixing together and forming molten bronze, as you can see here. In the end, we're going to end up with 8 ingots worth of molten bronze, even though we only put 4 ores in. That's another cool kind of property of the smeltery. It actually doubles the ores that we put into it. There's better ways to do that, but this is still handy. So, once this is finished, which it should be momentarily, we have the molten bronze we need in order to create our pickaxe. But there's one more step we need to take before we can actually turn this into anything useful, and that is making aluminum brass, which is 3 aluminum and 1 copper. The reason we need to do this is that this material is what we're going to use to create a cast, and that cast is what's going to be used to create things like pickaxe heads and tool rods and stuff like that. So in order to create a cast, we're going to take this pickaxe head that we created earlier, the one made out of stone, and we're going to just pop this down on our casting table. So once this is finished smelting and mixing together, we're going to be able to right-click this little faucet here and drain some aluminum brass onto this casting table, and it'll create a cast around the pickaxe head and then destroy it. And the end result of that is that we have something that we can pour other materials into to get this shape. So, is this done yet? Almost. And there we go. So we click on our molten aluminum brass to bring it down to the bottom, so it's the kind of active one that we're going to drain out. Then we right-click our drain, and I love this process. It always looks so cool. So then we can come back in here, click molten bronze, take this out, and now we're casting our bronze pickaxe head. And there we go. So, we now have 1/3 of our new pickaxe. We want to repeat this same process with a tool rod. That way we have a tool rod cast. Again, we want to make sure that the aluminum brass is down at the bottom. Cast that. Now we have a tool rod cast. Switch out to bronze, cast that. And now we have 2/3 of our new pickaxe. And we can go ahead and stick these right into the tool forge, which is awesome. So now all we're missing is a binding. But there's kind of a problem here, and I suppose it's not really a problem, but the bronze binding only gives us 80 durability. Now that's not terrible, but it's also not very good, and the durability of this pick in general just isn't that high. It's not much of a problem. We can repair the pick just using bronze, but if we were to make the binding out of something like, say, slime, we would actually get 350 durability, which is pretty good, So, in order to do that, we need to do something a little bit different. You see, slime is kind of an interesting material. We can't just slap it into our parts builder or into our smeltery. We actually need to create something called a green slime crystal. In order to do that, we need 4 slime balls, some sand, and some dirt. Now, thankfully, I managed to find a slime randomly down in some caves earlier on, though I could have just went to the nearby swamp in order to get it, I suppose. But once you have those different ingredients, you can throw those together in a crafting table, and that's going to give you some green slimy mud. That mud can then be thrown into a furnace and smelted, and that will give you the green slime crystal. So now that we have our green slime crystal, we can come and pop that into our parts builder, along with a binding pattern, and that's going to give us our slime binding. We can come over to the tool forge, pop that into the missing spot on our pick, and there we go. We now have a brand new Tinker's Construct pick. Now that's really cool, but we still have one distinct problem with this, and that's the mining level. Currently, this pickaxe is not capable of mining through obsidian. And that also means that it's not capable of mining through cobalt or ardite, the two nether ores that we want to use for our tool upgrades in the near future. So that's kind of a bummer, but thankfully there is a solution to that, and that solution is sharpening kits. So sharpening kits are simple little things that we can create with Tinker's Construct that allow us to apply a higher level material to our pickaxe in order to raise the mining level up. So, as you may recall, we don't really have access to many of the high-level resources. That's why we went with bronze in the first place. But thankfully there is one that we can make just a little bit of, and it's going to help us mine out some cobalt. And that is going to be obsidian. So naturally the question is, how do we get obsidian when we can't even mine it with the picks that we have? And thankfully our smeltery can take care of that for us. So we can put liquids into the smeltery directly by right-clicking on the drain. So, for example, I just right-clicked with a water bucket, and now we have one bucket of water sitting in there waiting to have something done to it. If we do the same thing with lava, those two are going to mix together and form molten obsidian, which of course we can then drain out into a sharpening kit cast, when you remember to switch to obsidian on the bottom. And that's going to fill this up and create an obsidian sharpening kit. Beautiful. So, now that we have that, we can walk over to our tool forge, pop that and our tool and a piece of flint in a different order. And that's going to upgrade our mining level up to cobalt. This means that we now have a very good early game pick. It's got just under 1,000 durability, it can be easily repaired with bronze, it can mine anything we want it to, it's got an okay mining speed, and it also has a couple extra little traits. The dense trait means your tool lasts longer when it has less durability, so as the durability gets lower, we don't really have to worry about it as much, though of course it is easy to repair, as I mentioned. And slimy means that occasionally little slimes will spawn around us while we're mining, which is just kind of funny. So that is amazing, and we now have a pretty good early game pick. And again, we will be upgrading it pretty soon, but it's going to work okay. Now this pick does also have room for one more modifier if we wanted to use it. And modifiers in Tinker's Construct are basically the equivalent of enchantments. So for example, if we added redstone to our tools, or even to weapons for that matter, it increases the speed of them. That's kind of like efficiency in the case of tools. If we added in lapis, we'd get fortune or looting effects. And there's all kinds of stuff. There's stuff like necrotic, for example, which if you add that to your weapons, it'll actually heal you as you hit stuff with them, which is really, really cool. But for some reason we only have one. That's actually because of a mod called Tinker's Tool Leveling. Normally we would actually have about 3 modifiers on this, but you'll notice we have something that says level clumsy and then XP 0 of 2000. That's basically because we have this mod that means that we're going to level this tool up as we use it. So we just mined a couple stone, now we have 2 XP out of 2000. I'm not actually sure if that is different based on what we mine. Seems like it's just per block. But either way, once we reach that 2000 mark, our pick is going to level up and we're going to get another modifier to work with. So basically, here at the beginning, our tool is actually worse than it normally would be, but as we level it up, it can actually get way stronger than it normally would be. And I've heard that this gets a little bit OP later on because you can just stack so much stuff on it. So, now we have a pretty cool pick, and I think we're going to try and take a step back from Tinker's now, because I rambled on about that mod way longer than I thought I was going to, and there's still a few things I want to take care of today. So, I want to take care of our personal inventory space management, because that's been a bit of a problem. I also want to take care of our transportation situation, because trudging around the ground is kind of boring. But before I do either of those things, I think we should do a little bit of building, because, well, if we get through episode 1 and my base area looks like this, it's not very good. I can't accept that. We need to do something a little bit better. Now, we're not going to go too crazy. Keep in mind, I don't have many resources available to me at the moment, and I still don't really know much about the building mods that are in this pack. But we can do something at least kind of nice. We're going to try and redo this area right here. Maybe add a little bit of a shelter in so that we have somewhere to sleep and we're not out here with all the mobs all the time. And we're probably going to try and add a nice pathway up to our Tinker's Construct area, and maybe even dress that area up a little bit as well. So do keep in mind as we begin this that the style that I'm going with here is definitely going to be changing, because I don't really know, again, what the mods I have can do and stuff like that, and we'll be figuring out the style as we go. So the stuff that we're doing here is going to be temporary. It's going to be at least modified later on. But at least for the time being, we need some kind of base structure. So I'm going to go get to that, and we'll see what it turns out like. So here's what we have so far. It's not quite as much as I wanted to get done today, but I don't think it's too bad for a day one starter hut. So again, keep in mind that all of these colors and all of the block choices and stuff like that is completely subject to change once we establish the build style in the area a little bit better. Still kind of working on the details of that, but it is going to be made of different materials than what we're using here. So I'm probably going to come back through and change that up and probably modify the details based on how other builds start shaping up. But for now, I think it looks okay. Obviously, we've got this building kind of built into the hillside, and that's not something we're going to be doing a lot of over here. We're not going to just keep building into the hillside with stuff. We're actually going to have a lot of freestanding buildings. But it was just kind of convenient for this one in particular. Over here, we have a bit of a staircase made of olive wood and dark oak, which I think that's kind of a nice combination, at least for the time being, before I figure out the kind of details of what we'll be using. And that leads us up to this Tinker's Construct smeltery area. Now, I did want to build a smeltery building today, but unfortunately, I just couldn't quite get there. I'm still working on the build style for this area in general, and I also want to do a lot of really cool stuff with our smeltery itself. So I decided to hold off on that. Hopefully we'll get to it relatively soon. But for the time being, it's just our smeltery sitting all by itself up there. And inside of this building is, well, a pretty generic Minecraft base. I normally don't like doing stuff like this. I normally like adding a little bit more detail and interest to builds, but because I need a lot of room for temporary machines and temporary setups of various things before we get all of our buildings in place, I figured that this would be a good route to go. Eventually, I'll come back in here and tear everything out and try and put something a little bit more interesting in its place, but for right now, I don't think it's too bad. So, for the time being, that's going to do it for the building, and for the amount of building we're going to do today, but there is still one thing I want to do. Unfortunately, we're just a little bit too short on time to take care of everything, but I do want to take care of our personal storage situation. So, if you've ever played mod in Minecraft, you probably know what I'm talking about. When you're building, you just have so many different blocks. Like, even these builds, as simple as they look, there's actually 3 or 4 different types of brick mixed in here. Andesite brick and stone brick and chiseled stone brick. Even though you can't really tell, it just adds a little bit of variation. And stuff like that, all the logs, the different types of slabs and stairs, all of these things fill up your inventory crazy fast, like even worse than vanilla. And that's actually exemplified when you're mining, because when you're mining, you have so many new types of ore. You have lead and iron and, well, I guess iron's vanilla, but copper and tin and iridium and aluminum and yellowite and all of these dusts and stuff. There's just so much stuff that when you're mining, your inventory just fills up instantly and you don't really want to throw any of it out. So that's really annoying, and I think that we can solve that by making 2 different items. The first one is the dank null. So the dank null has 6 different types, not counting the creative one that we can't make, obviously, and they get increasingly expensive and increasingly good. For right now, I think that the Mark III is going to do just fine for our purposes, and in order to craft this, we need 5 of these iron dank null panels. So each one of these panels needs a white stained glass pane, 4 iron ingots, and 4 blocks of coal. So that is a little expensive. It does take 20 blocks of coal, which is a little steep when you're first starting out, but it is definitely worth it. So let's go ahead and craft those together to get our actual dank null. And if we shift right click, you'll see that it looks kind of like a shulker box almost. It's like a shulker box that you don't need to put down. And that by itself isn't very impressive. Like, there's other backpack mods and stuff like that, but the Dank Null does way, way more than that. So let's go ahead and grab a couple stacks of cobblestone. These storage drawers are awesome, by the way. And let's go ahead and just shift-click in one stack of cobble. So you'll see the cobblestone in our Dank Null. We can actually right-click and place those blocks down, which is really, really cool. And that's just one little kind of handy thing about the Dank Null. But more importantly, if we drop out a stack of cobblestone, in fact, let's drop out both of them, boop, you'll see that they're not in our inventory. They actually automatically got pulled into our Dank Null, meaning that when we're mining, our cobblestone isn't going to start cluttering our inventory. It's all going to be contained in this null, and that's going to just make it so we have more inventory space to work with. So that by itself is pretty cool. But that actually leads us into the coolest thing about the Dank Null, and that is that this inventory slot can hold more than 64 blocks. You can see here we have 192 cobble in one spot. This particular version of the Dank Null, the Mark III, can actually hold 1,152 blocks per slot. So that's 18 stacks of cobblestone that'll go right here. And then once we exceed that, once we get up to that amount, it'll actually start nulling or voiding everything above that. So we'll still be picking up all of the cobblestone, it'll just get automatically discarded. That way it's not cluttering up our inventories. And that is amazing. It means we don't need to worry about cobble wasting inventory spots, but we can still use it to pillar and stuff like that. Very, very cool. On top of that, we can put all of the other ores and stuff that we mine, that we get while we're mining, and even granite and diorite and even stuff like sand all in here. We should have enough spaces to do that. And all of that will go into all of its spots, and our inventory will stay completely clean, which is fantastic, and I cannot wait to use this. I'm very excited. So that takes care of our mining situation, but I also want to take care of our general kind of bag situation. Because, like I said before, when you're building stuff, you get so many different blocks, and the Dank Null doesn't really help with that too well. It's not really suited for it. What is suited for it is the Iron Backpack mod, and specifically an iron backpack from the Iron Backpacks mod. So if we go ahead and craft the basic backpack, and then craft the iron backpack, which is an upgrade of that, we just have kind of a nice movable inventory. So this doesn't do anything too crazy. Unfortunately, the Iron Backpacks mod is in kind of an early alpha stage in its 1.12 iteration, and it doesn't have all of the upgrades that it has in the previous one. Though the mod developer is back kind of working on it fully now, so hopefully we'll start to see those soon. But it's just a general inventory that we can keep on us, and it'll help us take care of just general day-to-day stuff. So that's really cool. I'm probably going to keep these things on me pretty much all the time now. Why can't I click that? Oh, because I'm accessing it. That makes sense. So that's awesome, and that is going to take care of our inventory issues, at least for the time being, pretty well. Nighttime? Let's take a little snooze. Aw, monsters nearby. Boo. Okay, let's head out here and take a snooze then, shall we? Boop. I love the sleeping bag. Good stuff. So, now that we've taken care of our personal storage stuff, I think we're going to have to call it a day. Unfortunately, I just don't have enough time to tackle anything else. The episode's already getting kind of long, and that's kind of my fault. For some reason, I rambled quite a bit, despite most of you probably knowing more about mods than I do. So I'll try and tone that down in the future to prevent myself from boring you guys to death. But for today, I think that's going to do it. So hopefully you guys are excited for this series. I certainly am. It's been a long time coming, and there's a lot of stuff I want to get into. On that note, be sure to tell me what your favorite mods are and what mods I should really look into, because it's fully possible that I've overlooked some really, really cool stuff, and I want to try all the mods in this series. And that actually applies to mods that aren't even in the Revelation pack, by the way. So even if something isn't in Revelation, I will be happy to add it in as long as it's not going to break our world in any way. So stuff that adds just extra items or extra building blocks or anything like that, if you really like them, be sure to suggest them because I would love to check them out. I've already added one little mod of my own, in fact, so we'll probably look at that next time. Looking forward to it. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough as it is, so I'm going to get going. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching all the way to the end, if you still are. And I hope you enjoyed episode number 1, as rambly as it possibly was. So, I hope you have an amazing day. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.